For much of her life, Dame Judi Dench appeared immune to the fractures that often define artistic careers. To audiences, she embodied certainty, a performer whose presence alone seemed to steady a room. Her mastery of language, timing, and emotional restraint made excellence feel effortless. Yet no career, no matter how revered, exists outside the complexities of human interaction. Over time, Dench gently revealed that admiration does not shield one from misunderstanding or quiet disregard. Even at her most celebrated, there were moments when her perspective was overlooked or her authority subtly tested. These were not dramatic conflicts or public ruptures, but small reminders that respect must be continuously upheld. Rather than allowing these moments to harden her, she treated them as truths to be acknowledged. In doing so, she dismantled the myth that success guarantees ease, replacing it with something more honest. The understanding that dignity is not inherited through reputation, but protected through choice. Power in its quietest form. Power rarely announces itself. More often, it reveals itself through absence, the ideas left uncredited, the voices gently redirected, the silences that follow unasked questions. Dench came to recognize this form of influence not as cruelty, but as carelessness. In spaces increasingly shaped by speed, branding, or commercial pressure, she noticed how easily artistic intention could be softened or reshaped. She never framed these moments as personal affronts. Instead, she observed them with clarity, aware that authority does not always reside where experience lives. What mattered most to her was alignment between values and action, between respect and collaboration. When that alignment faltered, she did not seek correction through confrontation. She listened, assessed, and remembered. These moments taught her that power without intention often reveals itself quietly, and that responding with awareness rather than reaction preserves both self-respect and perspective. Choosing authority over approval. There were times when decisions surrounding Dench's work seemed to move forward without her voice fully present. Rather than feeling diminished, she recognized these moments as invitations to reassess her involvement. Authority, she understood, is not measured by how often one is consulted, but by how clearly one knows when to step back. She resisted the urge to justify her instincts or negotiate her principles. Instead, she chose simplicity, declining, redirecting, or allowing distance to form naturally. These choices were never dramatic. There were no ultimatums or declarations, only quiet redirection. She trusted that a career built on depth did not require constant accommodation. Approval, she believed, was fleeting. Integrity was not. By prioritizing the latter, she preserved her sense of self and allowed her work to remain rooted in authenticity rather than expectation. The subtle cost of disconnection. Acting thrives on exchange, on responsiveness, curiosity, and shared presence. Dench valued collaboration deeply, but she also understood that not all work and styles foster connection. When communication faded or energy withdrew behind process, she felt the shift immediately. She respected that artists approach their craft differently, yet she believed that professionalism required a minimum of engagement. When that balance tipped into isolation, the work lost something essential. Rather than interpreting this as failure, she accepted it as information. She adjusted her expectations and noted the environment carefully. These experiences were not about fault, but about compatibility. Dench learned that creative harmony cannot be forced, and that recognizing its absence early protects both the work and the people involved. Sometimes the most respectful response is quiet acknowledgement followed by distance. admiration without endurance. Dench never confused talent with compatibility. She openly admired brilliance wherever she encountered it, even when personal dynamics proved challenging. Praise, in her view, was owed to the work itself, not contingent on comfort. At the same time, she refused to believe that admiration required endurance. One could respect a performance without remaining in proximity to discomfort. This distinction allowed her to remain generous without sacrificing well-being. Publicly, she maintained warmth and professionalism. Privately, she drew clear lines. This balance was not strategic, it was instinctive. She understood that dignity thrives when boundaries are honored quietly. By separating appreciation from obligation, she preserved her joy in the craft while allowing others the freedom to remain exactly who they were. When mentorship shifts early in her career, Dench experienced mentorship as a shared exchange, grounded in humility, listening, and trust. Over time, she observed how easily that balance could shift. When authority arrived too quickly or certainty replaced curiosity, relationships subtly changed, interpretations hardened, dialogue narrowed, and mutual exploration faded. Dench did not resist these shifts or attempt to reclaim intimacy once it dissolved. She accepted them as part of growth, both hers and others. Rather than asserting seniority, she allowed her work to speak. What remained was professionalism, even as closeness disappeared. She understood that mentorship cannot survive without humility, and that respect cannot be demanded once trust has eroded. Some relationships, she learned, are meant to teach rather than endure. The weight of careless words. Theater demands vulnerability, which makes language especially powerful. Dench became acutely aware of how a single offhand remark could alter an entire dynamic. Words meant lightly could linger heavily, reshaping trust and warmth. She never dramatized these moments or revisited them publicly. Instead, she internalized their meaning. When humor drifted into dismissal or authority sharpened without care, she responded not with confrontation, but with recalibration. The performances remained precise, the commitment unwavering, yet the emotional closeness quietly receded. For Dench, this was not punishment, but preservation. She believed that emotional availability was earned through mutual care, and once withdrawn, it was not easily restored. Restraint as strength. Dench's approach to conflict was defined by restraint. She did not equate silence with weakness or volume with truth. Her responses were measured, intentional, and rooted in self-respect. When something crossed a line, she did not seek validation or apology. She simply withdrew her energy. This discipline was often misunderstood, but it was deeply principled. She believed that repeating oneself diluted meaning and that dignity required no defense. Walking away was not retreat, it was clarity. By choosing when not to engage, she preserved her autonomy and ensured that her presence remained intentional rather than obligatory. Aging with authority. As time passed, Dench resisted narratives that framed age as softness or decline. She remained intellectually sharp, emotionally engaged, and deeply curious. Experience to her was not a relic, it was an asset. She expected to be met with the same attentiveness she offered. When that expectation was unmet, she did not argue her worth, she adjusted access. This quiet confidence unsettled assumptions, but it also protected her independence. Aging, in her case, was not an apology. It was a refinement, a shedding of anything that no longer aligned with her values. The quiet final lesson. Looking back, Dench's career is not only a record of extraordinary performances, but of deliberate choices. Choices about where to stay, when to leave and what to protect. Once respect was compromised, she did not seek repair at the cost of self. The door closed gently, without spectacle or resentment. This was not punishment, it was self-preservation. Her legacy reminds us that grace is not submission, silence is not absence, and strength does not always demand visibility. In an industry that often rewards noise, Judi Dench proved that quiet resolve can endure longer and speak louder than anything else.